No one noticed the price tags at first. They weren't printed on paper or stamped onto voting machines. They didn't glow or beep or flash red. They were invisible, floating quietly above every decision people made, above every argument at dinner, above every headline shared in anger, above every ballot dropped into a box with a feeling that something important had just happened. The price tags didn't list dollars. They listed value, engagement, influence, predictability. For most people, democracy still felt like a ritual. You waited, you listened, you argued, you voted, you complained, you moved on. It felt messy, inefficient, frustrating, but familiar, like an old machine that rattled and clanked yet somehow kept running. Behind the curtain, though, the machine had been upgraded. It no longer ran on ideals, it ran on inputs. Every click was measured, every opinion was sorted, every fear was logged, categorized, and quietly resold, not in back rooms filled with smoke and whispered deals, but in clean offices with whiteboards, dashboards, and charts rising and falling like stock prices. To the people managing the system, democracy wasn't broken, it was optimized. They didn't call voters citizens, they called them segments. They didn't call debates disagreements, they called them friction points. They didn't ask what people needed, they asked what people responded to. And people responded best when they were emotional. Anger kept attention high, fear kept loyalty strong. Hope was useful, but only in controlled doses. Too much hope made people stop clicking, too little made them tune out completely. So hope was rationed. Election season became launch season. New slogans rolled out like product updates. Old promises were quietly deprecated. Scandals were timed. Outrage was engineered, and apologies were tested for effectiveness before being released. People felt overwhelmed, but they couldn't look away. The system didn't require trust, it required participation. And participation, even resentful participation, kept the numbers healthy. There was a man named Elias who noticed something was wrong, not because he was smarter than anyone else, but because he stopped reacting. It started accidentally. One morning, he didn't click an article that made him angry. Then he didn't share a clip that confirmed what he already believed. Then he muted a conversation that felt rehearsed, like everyone was reading from the same invisible script. What replaced the noise was silence. And in that silence, something became obvious. Every message felt pre-packaged. Every argument felt familiar. Even the spontaneous debates followed predictable arcs. Villains appeared on schedule. Heroes rose just in time. Crises peaked right before attention dipped. It felt less like politics and more like programming. Elias began asking questions, not online, where questions were quickly absorbed and redirected, but in person, quiet ones, awkward ones. Why did every issue seem urgent but unresolved? Why did solutions always arrive during campaigns and vanish afterward? Why did nothing ever feel finished? The answers were never direct. People shrugged, they joked, they blamed the system like it was weather, unpleasant, unavoidable, beyond control. But Elias didn't think it was beyond control. He thought it was beyond awareness. So he stopped consuming and started observing. He noticed how outrage traveled faster than facts, how fear outperformed nuance, how complexity was flattened into slogans that could fit on a screen, then a sticker, then a chant. Democracy, he realized, had become a performance measured by applause, not outcomes. And like any performance, it could be disrupted. Not with louder shouting, not with better slogans, with refusal. Refusal to be predictable. A small group formed, not a movement, not a party, not a brand. They didn't have a logo or a manifesto. They met in living rooms and public spaces. They didn't agree on everything. That was the point. They called it civic fasting, periods of deliberate non-engagement with political media. No doom scrolling, no algorithm-fed outrage, no reactive sharing. Instead, they studied policies slowly. They traced money patiently. They compared promises across years, not weeks. At first, it felt pointless, invisible. Then something strange happened. Campaign messages aimed at them started missing the mark. Ads felt irrelevant. Talking points didn't land. The system tried fear, no response. It tried anger, no spike. It tried hope, muted interest. The data got messy, segments blurred, conversion rates dropped. The system adjusted, as systems do. It pushed harder elsewhere, louder, more extreme. And that's when the contrast became impossible to ignore. Some people were exhausted, furious, emotionally burnt out. Others were calmer, more deliberate, harder to manipulate. The difference wasn't intelligence or ideology, it was awareness. As election cycles passed, this quiet resistance grew, not dramatically, not explosively, but steadily, like a market correction. Less attention was given away for free, more questions were asked before trust was extended. Some candidates noticed. The ones who relied purely on spectacle struggled. Their messaging felt hollow without instant emotional feedback. Others adapted. They spoke more plainly. They published details instead of slogans. They accepted slower growth in exchange for genuine support. It wasn't a revolution. It was a rebalancing. The system didn't collapse. It recalibrated. Because when attention stopped being limitless, influence became expensive again. When fear stopped converting reliably, it lost value. When voters stopped behaving like consumers, democracy stopped being purely a product. Years later, people argued about when things changed. Some pointed to reforms, others to technology. A few mentioned elections that felt different, less theatrical, more grounded. Elias never claimed credit. None of them did. They understood something simple. Democracy was never stolen in a single moment. It was rented out slowly to whoever paid attention to it the longest. And it wasn't reclaimed through outrage or apathy, but through patience, through treating participation not as a reflex, but as a skill. The price tags never disappeared completely. Maybe they never could, but they stopped being invisible. And once people could see the cost, they started choosing more carefully what they were willing to buy. Because the most powerful thing you can do in any marketplace is know when you're being sold to and decide, calmly, not to buy.